Hiya, I'm Jasper, and welcome to your video review for Avatar: Way of the Water. It's a movie starring Sam Worthington, Zoe Saldana, Stephen Lang, everybody from the first one, basically, except for Giovanni Ribisi. Some people have slightly bigger parts, some people have slightly smaller parts. So as always, I'm going to give you the good, the bad, and the furry. To start off the furry, it's Avatar set on Pandora. So there's a lot of really amazing, interesting, unique creatures. Um, and then, Navi. So, yeah, definitely, if you like the first one, this amount of creatures, you're going to really enjoy this one. Okay, so the general premise of this one is that, so Avatar came out in 2009. This one is coming out in 2022. And so that's, a good 13-year gap. And that's about the amount of time set in this movie between the first one and this one. Might be a couple more years in their timeline, but basically around 13 years. And basically, this is Jake Sully's been raising a family with Neytiri, and things have been going great. And then the humans return with all of the bad things that they could do, and they set up a beachhead and then go from there. And they attack, like they're doing what they were doing the first time that they were here, and the forest people are trying to stop them, and then yeah, so that's the premise that we're working with. I'm not going to go too much more into that because I feel like that gets into spoiler territory, but what I've given you so far is just like really opening minutes of this. And let me tell you, this movie is 3 hours and 12 minutes, which really shouldn't surprise you given that it's a James Cameron movie and the first movie was about 3 hours. So, yeah. So the good for this movie. The CGI is absolutely flawless. I don't know if you remember 2009's Avatar, which it made over $1 billion at the box office, so I'm guessing you do remember, but that CGI was also absolutely flawless in 2009. So I would have been highly disappointed if we had had, like, shitty CGI in this movie. And we didn't. It was absolutely amazing. Every single scene, every single second, every single thing that was on screen was just absolutely flawless in terms of CGI. So, excellent job for that. And then for the music, I would say that it's not quite as groundbreaking as the first one because the first one just had such amazing feeling behind it, and all of these new themes, that are just there. Oh, like you hear, you're like, oh, I know that's Avatar. That's Avatar music. So you just know it. Whereas this one, yes, it had really good music, but it wasn't quite as groundbreaking because you heard the Avatar theme, so to speak, from the first one. So I do appreciate that they kept that. It's sort of like, I don't know, kind of halfway between like how Lord of the Rings 1, 2, and 3, like you had some of the same themes in the music, like you got the Hobbit theme when the Hobbits are on screen a little bit, where, but not quite that much because I feel like they varied the music a bit more in 2 and 3 than they did between Avatar 1 and 2. But they did a bit more variance than they did in Pirates of the Caribbean, which was just that same you know what I'm talking about, the Pirates of the Caribbean slash Gladiator theme. So they did a good job of it. It's just not as big of a difference as Lord of the Rings, but bigger than the Pirates of the Caribbean differences. Cool. So excellent job with the music. Really loved it. I think it added to it throughout, and none of the times was there a bad song or music choice. So excellent throughout for that. The acting was all absolutely phenomenal. Again, everybody that was on screen was just fantastic. All of their line deliveries, even the like minor characters, they brought their A game, and I liked it. And I'm gonna call him the George of the Jungle character, could have been just real terrible. And I thought that, especially with the things that he was having to do, he did a very good job with. And that is where we're gonna get into kind of the bad. So, if you'll recall, sort of some of my complaints with Black Panther 2 is that there was a lot of like really convenience things that they had to do in order to forget the technology that they had. Well, in this one, they the characters have plot armor. I'm just going to throw it out there. The characters have so much plot armor. There were so many instances where it's like, you're doing all this, and then you're coming up with excuses to not kill our main characters. Like, if the bad things or the bad people or the bad instances, again, I'm not trying to get into spoiler territory, but if the bad instances were going to be happening to any other character in that moment, would not have turned out that way. So I found it not great in that regards. And then some of the things that were occurring, and it was neat to see the economics, if you will, of why the humans would come back to Pandora. It was neat to see that further fleshed out. But at the same time, their explanations for why they were doing the things that they were doing, I was like, that wouldn't happen. No. Nobody believes that that's how that would happen, or that would be allowed to happen. That's just, no. Just no. So basically what I guess I'm getting down to is that the plot was not super great. But to be fair, if you think about Avatar 1's plot, it was essentially Pocahontas or Fern Gully, depending on which movie you liked more before watching Avatar. And I really still loved that movie. With this one, I don't know if it's just because I'm older, and so, I have less forgiving nature for the movies that repeat other movies or are, just have certain themes throughout them. But I felt in the first one that there wasn't nearly as much plot armor, even with that. And yeah, so the storyline is just, if you liked the general gist of the storyline for one, there's a lot of that in this one, but I feel like they had some plot armor, and they had some characters that they just kind of forgot about when convenient. I really thought that Neytiri was underutilized, and then, like I said, there's just some characters that you're just like, okay, but what was this character doing during this? Like, that character did something we just didn't see. Like, it seemed like they would have been doing the something, and then they didn't do the something. Why didn't they? And there's just not a good explanation. Maybe there was a bunch of deleted scenes to make an even longer movie. I don't know, but I felt wanting. The other thing is that they didn't really solve a whole lot. I don't know that it was on like Avengers Age of Ultron level of being bogged down by setting up the sequels. I don't think it was quite bogged down that much, but it didn't end like on a cliffhanger. I hope you don't feel that spoilery, but I feel it's important to know whether or not something's going to end on a cliffhanger. Dune! So this didn't end on a cliffhanger, but I also feel like they didn't really solve anything. And so it's just like, you watch this really long movie, and it seems like the first movie was kind of self-contained, and sure, they set up like, okay, so we sent the bad humans away, but like, the humans can return, right? So this is the story of their return. But it's setting up the other things that will be happening, I think. And I didn't care for that because they didn't solve. And there, like I said, there's a bunch of kind of like, I guess we can pretend that that's how that would go. So the other thing is that I've seen so much good full CGI environments now. Like, the MCU, when it was at its peak, had just amazing CGI throughout. And this, they both have amazing CGI throughout. But in 2009 Avatar, 2009, right? If you think about it, that's 13 years ago in CGI-ville. And to have photorealistic environments with these photorealistic aliens throughout, like for, 80% of the movie, that was absolutely mind-boggling and just a huge spectacle and just wow. And, just wanting to see that so many times and just to just appreciate the beauty of the scenes that you could just see in all the different lighting and elements in 2009. Fast forward 13 years later, think about how you feel about superhero movies. From Iron Man 1 and Avengers 1 to now, with the most recent superhero movies that have come out. Are they any worse CGI-wise? I would say for a vast majority of them, no. They're much better, or if, at least equal in like the CGI bill, but even better. But you're still just like, well, I'm not as wowed anymore. Like, that first time that the Avengers all got on screen together was amazing and groundbreaking. And now when we have the individual superhero movies, are we as wowed? I think collectively we are not as wowed. And I think that that is a little bit of what dragged down my opinion about this movie, is that 2009 Avatar was probably my favorite movie ever for a long time, and it just blew my mind, and I went and saw it a bunch of times, and it just, I have that nostalgia for it. So I don't really think anything could have lived up to what I wanted this movie to be. So with that in mind, I'm still going to give it a thumbs up. I still think you should watch it. If you like the CGI, if you generally can accept the storyline from the first one, and you want to see more of this world. It's not terrible. It's such a huge fall from the amazingness that was Avatar 1 to this one just being okay. So that is where that huge drop comes into play, but it's still a good movie. To watch the visuals and the music and the feelings behind it. So I hope that you go and see it and enjoy it. I thought it was okay, and that is kind of where my opinion is on it. So thanks for coming. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you at the next one. Bye.